Är det bra med den andra spelen?
Ja.
Var det roligt på Temos igår?
Ja.
Så.
Vi skrattade igår.
Who's this guy?
Lägg av.
He's cute.
Yeah, can you tell me about William Scott's art?
Yes, William Scott is an artist who makes the world a better place. So he draws people in buildings and places in a way that he wants the world to be. So he uses his art to change the world and make it better for people.
How does William Scott get his inspiration from?
William gets his inspiration from the people around him, his family, buildings he likes, the city he lives in, his church, he goes to church, so he looks very carefully at everything around him. So he'll look at the buildings where he grew up in, and he'll think about how to make them better. What would a better building look like? He looks at people who maybe have had bad lives, and he thinks, how can they have a better life? So he'll paint them in a way that's where they're happy and their life is better. And when he goes to church, he looks at the people around him, and he likes to paint their portraits as sort of happy people who are helping the world.
What kind of places is he getting the inspiration? Where?
Yeah, well, he gets inspiration from, he grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't so nice. The houses weren't so nice, so he wants to change them and make the buildings better and make the houses very pretty and have people have swimming pools and balconies and big windows. So he's inspired by the places that he lives. So, and how can he change those? How can he make those better? So that's something that he likes. And then he looks at people really closely. And he'll, if he saw you and met you, maybe he would make a portrait of you, but he does it from memory. So he doesn't really take a photograph. He will take, he sort of, his memory is kind of like a photograph. So he'll remember what you look like. And then and then he'll paint you because you're a nice person. And if you're a nice person, then he says you're in his friendship society, so you can be one of his friends. And he'll paint your picture that way.
But did he succeed did he succeed? I mean,
Well, he's succeeded in some ways because he's become an artist. He has this great show here, and his paintings are in galleries and very well received, so he's become a successful artist. So he succeeded that way. He really wants to change the whole world. So he hasn't succeeded in that yet, but very few people can do that. So he's on his way.
Which materials does William Scott likes to work with?
Yeah, he works in a lot of different materials. Sometimes he draws buildings, and he draws them with like pen and pencils, and like an architect would make a draft or a drawing of a building. But then when he paints, he uses acrylic paint and brushes, and makes very big paintings, often on canvas, sometimes on paper with the acrylics. And then when he makes his masks, he makes like Spider-Man and Darth Vader and Frankenstein. He makes those out of cardboard and paper mache and tape and paint, and he builds those in a really great way. And sometimes if he wants the eyes to have, like Darth Vader has the eyes that are sort of glass, he'll put sunglasses in there or swimming goggles in there to make it look like eyes. So he uses a lot of different materials.
What does William Scott art tell us about?
Well, I think it tells us about how we can be better people. He really wants to have everyone be happy, and he doesn't want war. He wants people to be happy together, and he wants us to be good people and to live together peacefully. And I think he tells us about how if we are good people, the world will be a better place, and how people will like you for who you are, and not, he doesn't want people not to like him because he's black or because he has a disability. He wants people to see that he's a nice person, and that we should see this in everybody.
We have heard that William Scott wants to be an architect.
Mhm.
Why?
Well, I think he wants to be an architect because one, he really likes buildings, so he wants to make buildings. But he also likes to think of himself as an architect who can build the world in a better way. So for him as an architect, it's all kinds of things that he would build. He would build the buildings, but he would also put the people there and make the city better and you know, everything together. An architect builds things and he wants to build the world. So he really sees himself more as an architect than an artist because he really wants to build things. And if he knows his work is here in Sweden, he wants the architects to see it in Sweden because he wants them to build the buildings that he's drawn. He wants his paintings to become buildings, not just stay on paper.
What are we going to do in your workshop on Malmö Konsthall?
Well, I think we're at the workshop at the Konsthall, we're going to think about the idea of William wanting to be an architect. So we're going to ask you, if you were an architect, what would you build? Or what is the place where, or what is the place you want to live in? What would it look like? And it could be anything. It could be simple, like this is the house I want to live in. This is the bed I want to sleep in. This is the skyscraper I want to build. This is the world I want to live in. This is the country I want to visit. So really, there's you can use your imagination and either draw something or build a small building or make something that is about a place you want to be. What does the world look like to you? What's the best world you can imagine?
Are you also an artist?
I was an artist, a photographer and filmmaker. I'm not making work so much anymore, but I used to be, and I went to art school. So the artists, the people that work at Creative Growth, which is the center where William Scott works, we're all artists. And we believe that artists working together is the best way to, for people's art to become most interesting.
What do you want your art to tell us about?
Well, I think in photography you look at the world around you and you notice things and you try to have, and you look at things that interest you. You know, anyone can make a photograph, so what are you going to make a photograph of? I think that's the question for a photographer. So I like buildings, and I like how the light changes at night. If you go into the city at night and you photograph it when people aren't there or the light is different, you can see things that are very familiar in a different way. And I think that's very interesting. And I think most artists try to see things in a different way. I think when you look at the buildings that William draws, we see buildings all the time, but a lot of times we don't stop to look at them. And I think an artist calls attention to things for us and says, look at this. I like this. Or I would make it like this. Or did you notice this when you were walking down the street? Maybe you didn't. And I think it's very interesting.
I guess I thank you for the interview.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.